My name is Sophie Miller, and at 34, I've spent 7 years married to James Bennett, a man whose charm once swept me off my feet like a summer storm. But his family? They've always made me feel like a guest who overstayed her welcome. Last ice. July, at the Bennett family's annual 4th of July barbecue in their sprawling Connecticut estate, I dared to hope things might change. I was wrong. Dead wrong. It was a perfect summer day, the kind where the sun kisses your skin and the air smells of charcoal and freedom. I stood in the Bennett's manicured backyard, clutching a tray of my grandmother's famous blueberry cobbler, its golden crust a labor of love. I'd spent hours that morning perfecting it, hoping to win a sliver of approval from James's family. The Bennetts were everything my family wasn't. Wealthy, polished, untouchable. Their colonial mansion gleamed under the afternoon sun, a monument to their success. I, on the other hand, grew up in a modest Cincinnati apartment, raised by a single mom who worked double shifts to keep the lights on. My sister Lily and I shared a bunk bed until I left for college. Our holidays were potlucks with neighbors, not catered affairs with imported wine. James and I met during our senior year at Ohio State. I was a graphic design major, juggling coursework and a barista job to cover tuition. He was a business major, his education fully funded by his parents, Robert and Margaret Bennett. Robert had built a marketing empire, Bennett Media Group, from the ground up. Margaret ran their social calendar with the precision of a drill sergeant, while their daughter, Sarah, was a rising star at the family company by 27. Their youngest, Michael, the family's so-called rebel, still landed a cushy job at his uncle's hedge fund. I was dazzled by their world when I first visited their estate, feeling like I'd stepped into a Hollywood film. But the shine wore off quickly. The Bennett's subtle jabs were relentless. Margaret would praise my cute design, projects as if they were a hobby, not a career. Robert explained marketing basics to me at dinner, ignoring that I'd run my own freelance business for years. Sarah corrected my pronunciation of Chardonnay or Gucci with a smile that dripped condescension. "They mean well," James would say whenever I mentioned these slights. "Sarah's just trying to help you fit in. That's her love language." But Sarah's love felt like a blade, sharp and precise, cutting me down bit by bit. Our romance had been a whirlwind. James walked into my coffee shop one late night, his tie loosened, his smile disarming. We bonded over a dog-eared copy of The Great Gatsby I was reading between orders. 3 months later, we were inseparable. By graduation, he proposed with a diamond ring that cost more than my student loans. I was 26, in love, and naive enough to think marriage meant acceptance into his family. Our wedding was a spectacle, orchestrated by Margaret with a guest list longer than my entire extended family. Sarah's maid of honor speech included anecdotes about James's ex-girlfriends, each story landing like a dart. When we bought our first home in a quiet Connecticut suburb, Sarah questioned if it was suitable for a Bennett. When I landed a major client for my design business, she mused aloud if they hired me because of James's connections. I tried to win them over. I volunteered for Margaret's charity galas, referred clients to Robert's firm, memorized their birthdays, and laughed at their inside jokes even when they stung. I traded my thrift store style for designer dresses to match their casual elegance, swallowing my pride with every forced smile. For the first few years, I kept my freelance design business alive, building a modest portfolio and earning local recognition. But when James got a promotion requiring frequent travel, it was assumed, without discussion, that I'd scale back my career to manage our home. My client list dwindled, my friendships faded, and my world shrank to James's sporadic presence and his family's judgmental orbit. Last spring, I miscarried at 11 weeks. The physical pain was searing, but the emotional toll was worse. James was in Chicago for a conference, offering to return but sounding relieved when I told him to stay. Margaret sent flowers with a note. "Perhaps it's for the best until..." You're more settled. Sarah suggested my little business might have caused the stress that led to the loss. Only Lily drove from Cincinnati to stay with me, bringing homemade chili and holding me through nights of tears. The contrast between her warmth and the Bennett's coldness cracked something deep inside me. I buried it, as always, to keep the peace. By the time the 4th of July barbecue arrived, I was a shadow of myself. My design work felt mechanical, my social life was non-existent, and my marriage was a performance. Still, I clung to a fragile hope that I could earn the Bennett's acceptance. The barbecue was a neighborhood institution, a showcase of the Bennett's status. Margaret planned the menu for weeks. Robert unveiled his latest grilling gadget, a $5,000 imported smoker, and dozens of guests mingled on their pristine lawn. I spent hours making my cobbler, hoping it would finally earn me a place at their table. James rushed me out the door that morning, worried about being fashionably late. "Dad's showing off his new smoker," he said as we drove. "Act impressed, even if you don't get why it's a big deal." I nodded. My sundress, chosen to match Margaret's dress code, already feeling like a costume. The Bennett estate buzzed with activity when we arrived. Caterers wove through the crowd with trays of appetizers. Robert held court by his smoker. Margaret's laugh rang out like a bell, and Sarah swept James away with a story about his college buddy, leaving me alone with my cobbler. In the kitchen, Margaret barely glanced at my dessert. "Oh, Sophie, you didn't need to bring anything," she said, directing caterers. "The patisserie is handling desserts, but how thoughtful. Put it in the pantry." I placed my cobbler on a crowded shelf, overhearing Margaret instruct a server to feature Sarah's authentic lemon tart at the dessert table's center. The next 2 hours were a blur of polite rejections. I tried chatting with James's cousins, only to be pulled away by Margaret to meet someone important. I offered to help with the buffet, but the caterers had a system. I joined a conversation about movies, but my words were drowned out. Michael's wife, Lauren, a pediatric surgeon married into the family for only 2 years, was treated differently. Margaret introduced her as our Lauren, and Sarah included her in family stories she couldn't have been part of. Even Robert asked about her work, while I was ignored. The contrast was stark, and Lauren's discomfort with the attention mirrored my own with the exclusion. When lunch began, James reappeared, having spent the morning with Robert's business associates. "Having fun?" he asked, not waiting for an answer, before steering me to the buffet. We sat at the main table, me between James's deaf Uncle George and an empty seat for Sarah. James sat across from me, deep in conversation with Robert about Japanese business etiquette. Sarah arrived, her plate a work of art, and launched into a story about spotting a celebrity at her gym. Everyone leaned in, even George. I seized a rare lull to share my news. "I just finished a branding project for a new bakery downtown," I said. "Their grand opening is next weekend." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "How nice. Is that the place with the tacky neon sign? I drove by yesterday." "It's vintage-inspired," I corrected. "The owners wanted to honor the building's history as if you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice." Sarah cut in, her voice dripping with mock exasperation. "That's how boring this conversation is." The table erupted in laughter. Margaret tittered, Robert guffawed, and James chuckled, reaching for his beer. Even George, who likely didn't hear, joined in. The sound hit me like ice water, freezing me in place. My face burned, my hands turned cold, and 7 years of slights crystallized into perfect clarity. I didn't cry or storm off. I didn't give them the satisfaction of a scene. Instead, I raised my hot dog in a mock toast, locked eyes with Sarah, and said, "Challenge accepted." A confused silence fell. Sarah's smile faltered. James glanced between us, sensing a shift but not understanding it. Margaret chirped, "Who's ready for Robert's brisket?" and the moment passed. But for me, it was the end of normalcy. The rest of the barbecue, I observed rather than participated. I watched the Bennetts move through their world of privilege, James blending seamlessly while tossing me absent smiles. I cataloged every slight, every exclusion, every moment I was spoken over. A voice inside me, long silenced, grew loud. You deserve better. The drive home was silent. James scrolled through emails, reading snippets about his upcoming Tokyo trip. I stared out the window, my mind racing with calculations. At home, he finally noticed my quiet. Everything okay? You've been off since lunch? Sarah's joke about me disappearing, I said carefully. Did you think that was funny? He sighed, unbuckling his seatbelt. Don't start, Sophie. Sarah was just being Sarah. You know how she gets. You laughed. It was a joke, I said. Not everything needs analyzing. He got out, ending the conversation. That night, as he slept, I lay awake, replaying our marriage. I remembered the vibrant designer I'd been, confident and passionate. Somewhere, I'd bought into the Bennetts' narrative that I was lucky to be among them, my worth tied to their approval. At 2 a.m., I slipped into my home office and opened my laptop. I researched bank accounts, apartment listings in Seattle, where Lily lived, and transportation
James
options.
left for golf
with Robert, kissing me
dawn,
absently. I had a plan. The moment his car pulled away, I called my college roommate, Rachel. I need a favor, I said. I'm leaving James today. Can you help me pack? Name it, she replied without hesitation. 2 hours later, Rachel arrived with coffee and packing supplies. We worked efficiently, prioritizing clothes, documents, mementos, and my design equipment. I can store anything that doesn't fit in your car, she offered, wrapping a photo of my mom and me. I transferred half our joint savings to my personal account, paid my share of bills, and listed subscriptions to cancel. By afternoon, my car was packed with my life's essentials. Rachel hugged me fiercely. Call when you're settled. I'm proud of you. Alone in our home, I wrote James a letter, stating I needed time to reevaluate our marriage. I explained I'd taken only what was mine and handled bills. I asked for no contact. On the kitchen counter, I left my wedding ring, the letter, and a note quoting Sarah's joke verbatim, dated and clinical. I picked up our wedding photo, whispered, goodbye, and walked out. Driving away felt terrifying and exhilarating. With each mile, the tightness in my chest eased. I checked into a modest hotel, using my separate credit card. After texting Rachel and Lily to confirm my safety, I turned off my phone. James would be home, finding an empty closet and my letter. I felt neither triumph nor guilt, only numbness. Under unfamiliar blankets, I slept deeply for the first time in months. Morning brought James's messages: confusion, irritation, concern, anger. Where are you? Call me. This is ridiculous. Come home. Your mom's worried. You're selfish. I have Tokyo in 3 days. Fine. Take your space. Not once did he mention Sarah's joke or his laughter. I texted my mom to assure her I was safe, then turned off my phone and searched for Seattle apartments. Seattle's rain welcomed me, washing away my old life. Lily found me a month-to-month studio with bay windows and creaky floors. It was small, but mine. It's not fancy, Lily said, helping me unpack. It's perfect, I replied. I opened a new bank account, set up mail forwarding through Rachel, got a Seattle phone number, and updated my freelance profiles, removing James's IFISET network connections. James's messages shifted to bargaining. We can work through this. Come home. I stayed silent, not out of cruelty, but survival. Sarah posted on Instagram, "Family is everything. You can't choose who stays." Margaret called my mom, fishing for information. Lauren texted, "If you want to talk, I'm here." I responded to none, focusing on rebuilding. I found a therapist, Dr. Karen Mitchell, specializing in family dynamics. Our sessions were draining but grounding. Sarah's joke wasn't the cause, Dr. Mitchell said. It was the catalyst. The last straw, I agreed. Tell me about the first straw, she prompted. Memories poured out. Subtle digs, minimized achievements, dismissed opinions, James's complicity. By month 2, I had 3 steady clients, formatting ebooks and designing social media templates. The work wasn't creative, but it paid bills and rebuilt confidence. One rainy day, I admired a mural in a coffee shop. The barista mentioned the owner, Ellen Carter, needed a designer for menu boards. An hour later, I showed Ellen my portfolio. I don't care about resumes, she said. Show me your personal work. I hesitated, then opened old designs. Experimental, authentic. You've been hiding, Ellen said. These are good. Why'd you stop? I shared an abbreviated story. My passion dimmed by the Bennett's expectations. Ellen hired me with a condition. Do one personal piece weekly. I don't care if it's good. I care that you're finding your voice. Ellen became a mentor, connecting me with local businesses. My calendar filled with engaging projects. James's messages slowed, and divorce proceedings began. He resisted at first, then relented. By month 6, I received the finalized papers. His note read, I don't understand, but I won't fight you. That night, I cut my hair into a modern bob, shedding James's preferred style. The mirror reflected a woman I barely recognized. Stronger, clearer. 8 months in, I rented a desk in a creative co-op, surrounded by artists who valued my input. My branding project for a local artisan food company won regional awards. Ellen's coffee shop redesign got magazine coverage. A workshop comment led to a speaking invitation. A year after Sarah's joke, I was visible, valued, heard. Then came an email from Pinnacle Creative. Your work for Rainer Artisan Foods caught our attention. We're developing a campaign for Sheffield consumer brands. Your aesthetic is perfect. Meeting next week? Sheffield was a subsidiary of Bennett Media Group. The timing felt suspicious. I called Ellen. It could be legitimate, she said. Your Rainer campaign was in 3 publications, but the timing... I requested details. The project was massive, redesigning Sheffield's organic line packaging with a potential long-term contract. The budget was double anything I'd handled. After 3 days, I accepted the meeting. If the Bennetts orchestrated this, I'd face them. If not, I wouldn't let fear limit me. Pinnacle's creative director, Thomas Reed, showed no knowledge of my Bennett connection. We discussed concepts, timelines, and budgets professionally. When I asked about client involvement, he said Sheffield executives would review milestones. For 3 weeks, everything was normal. Positive feedback, no Bennett names. Then came the announcement. Sheffield's rebrand would debut at the annual Marketing Innovation Gala, a high-profile event the Bennetts never missed. My attendance was encouraged. Dr. Mitchell outlined my options: decline and limit growth, attend and avoid the Bennetts, or attend and engage on my terms. What would you do? I asked. What would Sophie do today? She countered. Last year's Sophie would have hidden. Today's Sophie confirmed attendance, hired a stylist, and used part of the project advance for an emerald jumpsuit, caramel highlights, and designer heels. At the gala, I felt calm, ready. The historic theater venue glowed with elegance. Thomas introduced me to executives, and I spoke with authority, collecting business cards. 40 minutes in, I felt the room shift. Robert's laugh confirmed the Bennetts' arrival. I stayed composed, chatting with a magazine editor. At the bar, I scanned the crowd. Robert and Margaret held court. Sarah wasn't visible. James stood apart, thinner, diminished. Our eyes met. His widened in shock. I held his gaze, then turned away. Robert approached first. Sophie, quite a surprise. I'm Sheffield's lead designer, I said calmly. Preliminary testing is positive. Your work's evolved, he said. Returned to its authentic direction, I corrected. He shifted uncomfortably. Margaret's here. She'd want to say hello. Of course, I replied neutrally. Sarah intercepted me before the presentation. No one mentioned you were involved, she said, her tone accusing. I'm with Pinnacle, I replied. Thomas, this is Sarah Bennett. Sophie's exceptional, Thomas said. Excuse us. The presentation was a triumph. I spoke confidently, showcasing the rebrand strategy. The audience applauded. The Bennetts watched. Afterward, I was swarmed with praise and opportunities. James approached alone. You look well. Thank you, I said. I didn't know you were in Seattle. That was intentional. Your presentation was impressive. You always were talented. Am talented, I corrected, present tense. He admitted to therapy, seeing his family's failures. I didn't stand up for you. I keep thinking about Sarah's joke. Your challenge accepted. You declared independence. We talked for an hour. He asked for a chance. I like who I'm becoming, I said gently. We both needed to change. Margaret approached, her smile strained. Sophie, a delight to see you thriving. Interesting, I replied. I recall my cobbler in the pantry while Sarah's tart was center stage. A misunderstanding, she said. Multiple over 7 years, I countered. I'm in environments where those don't happen. The next day's workshop was intimate. Sarah approached, coffee in hand. Thomas speaks highly of your work. He's excellent, I said. Father's considering bringing Sheffield in-house, she said, testing me. That's his prerogative, I replied. Pinnacle protects creative attribution. James slipped in for my digital integration presentation, which was well received. Afterward, Margaret cornered me in the courtyard. You've changed. Reverted, I corrected. To who I was before fitting into spaces not meant for me. Families are complicated, she said. I spent 7 years observing that, I replied. James was devastated. Inconvenienced, I corrected. I'm here because I'm good, not to revisit pain. At the closing dinner, Sarah's presentation included my design with attribution, a first. James wished me safe travels. I left feeling not triumph, but sovereignty. A month later, Ellen and I discussed the Sheffield launch's success. The Bennetts reached out about future projects, I said. That's an evolution, she noted. The twist came weeks later at a farmer's market. Sarah, visibly pregnant, approached. I've been thinking about what you said. Contexts where you're valued versus dispensable. I'm learning that with motherhood. Self-awareness is powerful, I said. I don't want my child to feel they need to disappear to be seen, she admitted. That's a good start, I replied. We parted without promises, just mutual recognition. I'd bought a small house by the water, my own earnings creating a home authentically mine. Sarah's joke had been the catalyst, not for revenge, but for reinvention. I'd disappeared from their narrative to write my own, where I was celebrated, not tolerated.